Milwaukee just announced their new dual battery rear handle chainsaw at their annual pipeline event. And it just so happens that we got to test this out before release. So we got the inside scoop and we're gonna let you in on it in this video. Hey guys, it's Andy and Thomas with The Rooted Arborist, and today we are super excited to talk to you about the new, just announced Milwaukee M18 dual battery chainsaw, set to release on August 1st.
Milwaukee sent us this saw and we've been testing it out for the last 6 months. And it's given us plenty of time to be able to give an honest review of how we think this saw handles.
All right, let's take a quick look at what you get in one of these packages. First, we get the M18 FUEL 20-inch dual battery chainsaw. We get two MX red lithium forged XC 8.0 batteries. I don't know why Milwaukee names it that. It's kind of redundant. So from here on out, we're just going to refer to these batteries as 8.0 forges. You also get a dual bay simultaneous rapid charger with the kit. The saw comes equipped with an Oregon manufactured 20-inch bar and an Oregon 325 by 050 narrow curved chain. The saw also comes equipped with a built-in scrunch and a scabbard that also covers the dogs. Probably the first thing that people are curious about when they see this is the battery, specifically the dual battery in this saw. Like the name states, this saw uses two M18 batteries, which are 18 volt, making this a 36 volt system. As we mentioned before, this saw comes equipped with two 8.0 forge batteries. For those of you that use the 6.0 forge batteries released last year, you know just what an upgrade the forge is from the high output models. If you're new to Milwaukee, then you definitely want to get another set of 8.0 or 12.0 forges or 8.0 or 12.0 high output, just so you can continue that rotation. Number two, power. All right, it's really important to understand that battery power looks, sounds, and feels different than equivalent CC power in a traditional gas chainsaw. Battery saws typically have a lower chain speed, which means they have more applied torque. This saw compensates for that low chain speed with an impressive amount of continuous torque that's evident from the first time you use the saw. All right, so the M18 dual battery chainsaw comes with two different power modes. In standard power mode, we have a peak horsepower of 4.4, which is roughly equivalent to a Stihl 261 coming in at about 50 cc. Setting 2 is the peak power mode, which delivers 5.8 horsepower, which is equivalent to the 70 cc offerings that we see from Stihl with the 462 or Husqvarna with the 572 or even Echo with the 7310. So that's a lot of power from a battery platform. Number 3, weight. This chainsaw, chain, and bar come in right about 15 pounds, which is equivalent to the power head of the Husky 572. So you may be thinking, wow, this saw is pretty light. Well, not really. When you add two 8.0 forge batteries, it ratchets up this 15-pound saw to the 20-pound mark, which is equivalent to that Husky 572 with bar chain, oil, and gas. So if it's a similar weight to the Husky 572, are we getting the same performance? Not really, because remember, there's two power modes. So if we're in setting 1, we're closer to that 50 cc range. Setting 2, we're in that 70 cc range. So let's split the difference and call it a 60 cc saw. So at that range, we're looking at saws like the 391, the Husky 562, which are definitely lighter than this saw. The reality is that most battery saws are going to be heavier than their gas counterparts. But if you just want to make the jump to battery because you prefer the merits of it, or if you're in an area where you're being coerced by political pressures or legislative changes, this saw is a great 70 cc option, albeit on the heavier side. Side note, if you're carrying around a 20-pound saw, your forearms and triceps are gonna look awesome. Number 4, recommended bar and chain. So the kit comes with a 20-inch bar and an 84-tooth 325-050 chain. So narrow curved chain, not really common for the 20-inch bar varieties, but we haven't seen any issues with it, even though we typically prefer an 058 or an 063 chain. What makes this saw different from the other saws on the market? It's a battery saw that enables the pro user to handle the majority of tree care needs. So if we're comparing it to the other battery rear handle saws on the market, we're gonna see higher power output with a higher weight threshold. If we go down to the Husqvarna 542, we're gonna have a really lightweight saw in that 40 cc variety. If we go up a little bit to that 60 cc range, we're gonna see the Ego commercial to 20-inch bar. And then if we wanna make it to the 70-inch jump, you're gonna pay for that 70 cc power with a little bit more weight. But when you have a large job, sometimes you need a heavy hitter. It's also comparable with the full range of Milwaukee M18 batteries, which is a really awesome feature if you're an owner-operator that's doing your own maintenance, or if you're a large-scale company that wants uniformity throughout their OPE needs. All right, so as we mentioned earlier, this saw has two power modes. They're found in the top of the rear handle. The LED indicator at the bottom is normal power mode. If you click it again, you're in peak power mode. Flipping this saw over, we see that this saw has two captive bar nuts, which makes changing a breeze. After all, you don't want to drop your nuts in a tree. This saw also has a built-in scrunch, which is really handy. The saw comes equipped with two really aggressive saw dogs, which really aid in keeping the saw in the cut. The bottom of the saw is notched to accommodate hanging storage solutions. So now we're going to talk about some performance testing. So firstly, this saw is a breeze to start. Real quick, you put your hand over the rear handle, you depress the dead man lever, disengage the chain brake, and you're ready to cut.
So today we're going to demonstrate the capabilities of this saw. Right here we have some really dead white ash. It's pretty hard, and I would say that most saws, even with extremely sharp chains, struggle to kind of cut through this. So we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, battery saws especially hate dry ash wood. So Milwaukee, if you're watching this, we apologize for the wood selection. Maybe next time we'll try it on some nice tulip for you. All right, I'm gonna do 2 cuts in traditional power mode, which again is at 4.4 horsepower. And then Thomas is gonna immediately follow me in high power mode, which comes in at 5.8 peak horsepower. Here you go.
And to select the power, it's as easy as just hitting that button right above the handle there.
All right, one last demonstration. We are gonna do a plunge cut in high torque mode.
So when it comes to saw handling, like we've said, this saw is a little heavy, but once you start cutting with it, it kind of disappears because the torque is so high on this saw.
Yeah, I feel like the weight of the saw actually helps it keep in the cut. So again, this has been sitting here for 2 years. We removed this EAB infested ash tree. There's not a speck of moisture in this guy, and it handled it pretty well.
Yep.
As far as cutting speed and smoothness, this saw does an excellent job. On the back bar, I will say it doesn't love cutting through dry ash as much as it does on the bottom of the bar, but that's with most saws. Battery saws, for whatever reason, struggle even more on the back bar. But if you take a look at these chips, I mean, that's not a brand new chain. We've been running that for a few weeks, and we still have excellent chips, despite the fact that there's no moisture in this guy at all.
Do you know what saw this kind of reminds me of?
Husky 365.
No, but that's a good guess. I was actually thinking it reminds me a lot in terms of handling and torque of this Stihl 462.
Oh, that's a really good one. Yeah, so a little heavier, not
Right.
quite as much chain speed, but it just feels right. It's got a lot more torque. It
has that pull power.
Yeah, and you're not worried about crew guys beating it up.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, I think 461 is a great comp. One of the other things we like to consider when we're testing saws is the amount of vibration that we feel in our hands. And with this saw, partially because it's battery, we don't have to deal with all the constant idling of a gas saw. But the weight, again, I know we've touched on it several times, but the weight really does help get rid of that vibration. It's just steady through the cut.
Yeah, and I would say that this saw has a higher pitch to it,
sure.
but the volume is way less than an actual gas saw.
So most of the manufacturers are displaying their decibel readings. I don't know how accurate they are, but at least for us, especially with those new Husky XComs that you saw us wearing earlier, we don't pick this all up at all. So if Thomas is in the tree cutting with this or on the ground, I can still have a full conversation and I don't even pick up that sound.
Can't even hear it's there.
Yeah, that decibel rating has knocked it way, way down. For the most part, this guy, you can run this all day and you're not worried, you don't feel like you're getting beat up by the sound or the fumes or any of those other issues that you're going to experience with the larger CC gas saws. All right, so let's talk about some of the pros and cons.
So one of the things I love about this saw is that it has a lot of power, and I think it realistically takes care of a lot of the needs that we have in our industry. industry.
For sure. So I know a lot of people are going to beat us up in the comments about this one, but the reality is most tree guys don't need a 90 or 70 cc saw.
Sure, I would think that the majority, like 90% of tree work, is probably done with a 50 cc saw or less. And I would say that the average tree crew in America are realistically just either pruning or they're taking down trees that are about 20 inches in diameter or less.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so with that being said, I would say that this saw is a real solution for those looking to make the jump from gas to battery for a full-scale conversion.
I would say a second pro is that the cross compatibility with the M18 platform is a huge selling point, and it works for both commercial and residential work that's done across the US.
So a third pro is that there's a very simple interface with this saw. There's no on-off button, there's no weird combination of things to get it running. You just disengage the chain brake and you're ready to rip.
So number 4's pro, I would say, even though it's a little bit of a heavier saw, I think they make up for it with the construction of the saw. It's really robust, and I think it would hold up under a lot of strenuous activity in tree work. Yeah, for sure.
So we see guys routinely use chainsaws for truck chocks or all kinds of crazy stuff. So we actually threw the top panel version of this saw, I say we, it was me, threw it out of a tree about 85 foot last year, and it bounced over his head. He put new oil in it, new battery, and it was still good to go. So hopefully we see some similar results.
Hopefully it translates.
Yeah, maybe without the throwing of the saw, but hopefully we see some really durable results. All right, so the fifth pro is that like all other battery saws, you don't have to deal with the excessive noise or the fumes that you deal with most gas saws, especially when you're doing stump cuts or longer run times.
That's a key point. Number 6, no winterization required.
All right, so number 7, because this saw does not require winterization, you can leave it in the trunk or in the truck, and you know that any time of the year you need it, you can grab it and it's gonna be ready to go. So it's a great candidate for storm operations.
And number 8, I would say that the last and final pro that we have is that they require little to no maintenance at all. It's a battery operated machine. Other than blowing out the saw from time to time, really no maintenance.
Let's talk cons. Well, hopefully in the future, battery saws will get lighter, but as of now, this guy is heavier, so that's its biggest flaw. But they say I'm on the heavier side too, and I feel like I've worked out pretty well.
So the second con I would say is that this package doesn't really come with longer bar options other than the 20-inch that it comes with. We've had the opportunity to kind of mess around with some longer bars, but right now it only comes packaged with a 20-inch bar.
Yeah, so when we were testing this all out, we actually threw a 24-inch bar and a 28-inch bar with pretty good results. So it's true that we had some over-temping issues, especially with the 28-inch bar, but I'm pretty confident that with the new 12-0 Forge batteries, we'll be able to pull 24 for sure consistently without temp issues, and maybe even get up to that 28-inch bar range when we really need it, especially if you're like in softer woods.
I just feel like Milwaukee was playing it safe by putting a 20-inch bar in with the package.
All right, so my third con is the fact that they packaged this with a dual base simultaneous rapid charger as opposed to the dual base supercharger. So because this all comes kitted with the Forge batteries, I would have really loved to see the supercharger in the kit, just because we have a way better charge time.
Yeah, so the 8.0 and the 12.0 Forge batteries will actually charge 0 to 100% in about 40 minutes, which is, it's about twice as fast as the rapid chargers.
Yeah, so to my point, if you're gonna run this saw, especially in a commercial setting, or if you're just gonna have heavy at home or on the farm use, you definitely wanna get that supercharger or a couple more Forge batteries just to have so you can keep running through the cycle.
Yeah. So yeah, this kind of brings us to number 4, which is you probably will want to purchase some extra battery packs if you're gonna run this pretty consistently or heavily throughout the day.
And the last thing that I think we both would have liked to have seen is a chain brake indicator light somewhere on the display. Some people like to put saws down without re-engaging the chain brake, and when I pick it up, I want to know whether or not that saw's ready to go. It's just kind of a CYA thing for insurance purposes. At $900 for this package, this saw is an amazing deal. The batteries alone are going to retail from $250 to $325 a piece. So really you're going to get the saw for about $300 and the charger for only about $100.
Yeah, so a Stihl 462 comes in around $1,400 and a Husky 572 comes in around $1,000.
Yeah, and don't forget, you're still going to need to fill those puppies with 2-cycle pretty consistently. So it's important to remember that battery saws are going to be a larger upfront investment, especially when you buy additional battery packs. But in the long run, as you're adding more OPE tools or you're getting more battery saws, you're gonna accumulate more and more packs over time, and then you're gonna be flush with battery packs before you know it.
So if you already have Milwaukee tools in the M18 platform, this kit really is a must-have.
Absolutely. So ultimately, I think this package is a great deal, especially with the 5-year tool warranty and the 3-year battery warranty.
Yeah, and I think it's a great saw for any tree or landscape crew that you have.
All right, guys, that is our review of the new Milwaukee M18 dual battery chainsaw. Let us know in the comments what you think about this saw, if it's something that you'd consider purchasing, or if you're still on the fence about battery OPE in general.
Again, thanks for checking out our review, and make sure that you stay tuned, subscribe, and like so that you guys can stay up to date with all of the new OPE outdoor products and other reviews that we do on this channel.